Hello.
Hey!
Welcome to
The Sound of That.
With me, George Pelham.
And me, Lindsey Isla.
How you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. We just interviewed somebody put me in a very good mood. Tell us about the person we just interviewed.
So we interviewed Pete from Diving at Dawn / The Boilie Slightly Too.
And he's someone that I know really well because I've written so many songs with him.
I'm gonna close the window. I'm back.
Yes, I've written so many songs with him, and he is an incredible musician, really fun guy, and I loved it. Did you love it?
Yeah, I had a really nice time. Before we start off, if you can like and subscribe, that'd be really handy, and ring the bell as well if you want to get notifications for when these come up. And should we just kick it off with the interview?
I'll see you on the other side.
I'll see you on the other side. Hope you enjoy.
Hello, my name is Pete Hobbs. I'm in the band Diving at Dawn and also The Boilie Slightly Too. I'm also a songwriter and producer and engineer.
That's quite a list of achievements right there. Occupations / achievements.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my questions to you, right? Of all the things, because obviously being an artist, you've got to do so many different things. Which of them, all of them, if you had to just pick one and the rest you weren't allowed to do, would you pick?
The artist.
Which artist?
It does. I can't be specific about that because it's just different areas of different parts of me. I don't think I could just be one thing, artistic. That's part of my problem in life, is that I like too many different things and trying too many different things. So I've been an artist, but one that had room to maneuver in different ways.
So you couldn't choose between singing or songwriting or anything like that. You'd rather just you'd want to do it all.
I'd rather be in charge of what I do. Be one of the main creative forces. I don't know if or have a direct collaboration with an artist if I was writing. I wouldn't like to write a song and then farm it out to someone else and have no connection to the person performing it or recording it. I like it to be, there's still, it's all about having a connection with someone.
Yeah, because
that's the most important.
Because when you're on, say like when you're on stage, is that something that you found that you sort of learn, or do you feel like you always were a front man or always were the guy in the band? Do you know what I mean? Was that in you, or do you think you had to learn that?
Yeah, no, that's what I've done since I was 13. I think I did 13. I started my first band at 13. 14 did the first gig. I used to be just the guitarist in a band, and then I moved to being the singer and guitarist. And then, I've always been at the front in some way. Yeah, I've always been driving things. And even in the Boilie Slightly Too, I drive it in a certain way, and Joff, it's a partnership, but we're both pushing the whole time. It's not, there's no room for passengers.
Have you ever been in a situation where you're maybe not driving it, or maybe you're being told what to do, and just having an awful time? Yeah.
Every situation where I've not been in control or have a lot of control, I've not really enjoyed it. Because I'm not a really great musician, so I'm not a really great guitarist or good enough to go in and just be a session guy. So I find it a real, I like to create. I like to play what I've written. I don't like to play what other people write. So it's I'm not very good at that.
And from your experience sort of in the music industry, what would you say that is the best thing about it now that wasn't when you first started?
Well, now you can do everything. You can make a record, you can release it, you can promote it. All the web and the social media, digital distribution. You couldn't do any of that before. It was so expensive to go into a studio when I started out. It was a massive deal. You'd have to save up for months and months to get a demo, and then you'd come out the other end after the whole thing was to go into the studio. So you'd save up to go in the studio. You'd have one day. You have to do as many songs as you could, and you'd always be disappointed when you came out because you didn't know what you're doing. You'd go in, do it, and be disappointed, and then have to save up for another 6 months to get some, or you get some demo time for a record company, and so you were sort of. It was all about being in a band then. There was no experimentation. It was about being in a band and capturing as best you could what you did on stage, and that's really hard to do, and you need someone to help you do that, and it's difficult to find a producer that you connect with. So, but now you can do everything. You can do everything yourself. At least you can get started, where it's very difficult to get started. It used to be.
And obviously now, like, you've got your whole setup, you can make your whole record in that room. Do you find that is almost not stifling, but do you find that it maybe takes more time because you can do it all yourself, and just perfectionism kicking in? Do you feel like it kind of gets in the way because it is so easy to do? Whereas maybe if you had a time limit in the studio, you're like, I have to finish this today.
Yeah, I mean, the deadline is a brilliant thing, and whether it's a deadline if you're in Abbey Road or deadline if you're in in this place I'm in now, you get it done if there's a deadline. But if you don't, then you can be just I've done it. I've ended up spending weeks and weeks on recordings, going around in circles, trying to perfect stuff, because there's no one saying it's got to be finished by then. And so it's a sort of creative. But if you told me next week you have to get it done, I'd get it done. But if there's no deadline, I'll just. And also, there's so many options now, which you never used to have, because you only had the band that you're in. That was your limitations. But now you can have. If you need an orchestra, you can get an orchestra on on soft synth or sampler. You can do anything. So that's can be very frustrating, and it adds to the amount of time you spend. And you do go around in circles, and you do go mad, and I've done that, and I still do it.
Me too. Do you have a lot of discipline in yourself to be like, okay, this song's done, but I've got to be 8 hours, I have to finish the bass part or whatever, or do you kind of let deadlines slip?
Only 8 hours.
Or whatever it is.
No, I think you just learn with experience how to come unstuck, because when I was doing stuff in the late 90s, and it was all in studios. You go into other studios and you'd work, and it was really frustrating because you never got what you wanted. And then at the 2002, 2003, I started to get into hard disk recording, like on a computer, PC, and then that opened up everything. And you didn't have to have a big room, you didn't have to have a proper studio, you didn't have to have loads of equipment. You just, you could just sit there and make the music, like you were discussing. But as you get more adept at doing that, working on your own, like I said, the possibilities open up. And I've slightly lost the thread of your question.
I think I find sometimes that because I control all my content and I put everything out, but also there's no one really there to tell me that I'm doing it wrong or I should be going in another direction, which I think can be quite hard, because if there's no one telling you that's rubbish, for example, then they're not pushing you.
Like a teacher.
Do you have anyone that you can go to that would like have would share their real opinion? Do you think you would?
No. And the thing is, the way I've learned is by doing stuff and getting zero reaction and failing quite, spectacularly. And trying so many different things and listening to people, being in situations with record companies and listening to them and them telling me what to do, what you need to do to get on the radio, do this. And I, had a point where I was doing all that and nothing was happening. And then I thought, well, this is just it's not fun. It's actually very soul destroying, really, because you're not listening to your instinct. And you end up going around in circles, and you end up putting out music you don't really like, and then it fails. And you're like, well, of course it failed, because it wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't what I knew it would fail, but I thought someone else would open a door, and I would be able to capitalize on that, and that's never happened. So it's all so you just got to be open to failing, really.
Yeah.
And trying to see what happens, because you never know. I could play a song to someone, and it's happened. I've played stuff, and people have dismissed it, and it's gone on to be successful because I didn't listen to them. So I just don't think anyone knows anything, really, and it's a really painful existence. In that way, because you're just unsure the whole time, but if it comes off, if your hunch comes off, and you believe in what you've done, and then that is actually successful, that's amazing. That's brilliant. That's such a cool thing, but it doesn't happen very often.
Well, I think it's time to hear one of the things that have come off.
Yeah.
Okay, so this should be one that I like.
Yeah, your favourite one,
Favourite.
or one that anything you like.
I don't know if I have a favourite, because there's just so many, and they all mean different things at different times when you write them, and they're all little achievements. But this song, I really like this song, and I think it's just quite a cool song, and I'll do that. I'll do this one. It's called Invincible. And it's never been released before.
Oh wow, here we go.
Exclusive.
And I apologise if I cock it up. I don't think I've ever played it live before. We used to be invincible, but now I'm not quite sure. We used to have our principles, but we sold them all for some cheap reward. We try to stay convincible. As time drags on, we know the score seems to be ridiculous. Nothing gained is something lost. Facing the world's not the same anymore. We used to get drunk to the thrill of it all. Scream and shout, I can't shake that down. I've heard it all before. Turning now, we'll build ourselves from nothing, then we'll rise above. Don't let it go, soon brightness will be gone. That's that.
Yay, loved it.
Absolutely love that song, man.
So what was that one about? Can you tell us?
It's, I don't know, it could be about different things. I think it's about getting older, and you realise that, like, the first line is, "We used to be invincible, but now, I'm not quite sure." And so, yeah, it's just suddenly realising that you're not invincible, indestructible, and there's more to life than you perhaps thought.
Do you feel that as you've got older, that obviously your lyrics reflect what's going on at the time, but do you feel like your music, the kind of, the drums and all of that, kind of reflect your age as well? Or is it all the same as it has always been? Like
It's all the same. I think it's all the same. I think it's just different parts of you at that time. Yeah, I can still tap into songs I wrote a long time ago and think, yeah, that's because to me a finished song is a finished song. Song, not song. And that's it. It's just there. It just exists, and you can inhabit that character, or it has different meaning as you get older to you. And it's always quite emotional looking back on the times you wrote it. There's so many, it's multifaceted. It's funny. It's a funny thing.
And would you say, when looking back to sort of the songs that you first wrote, do you think your taste has changed much since then, or do you think they're do you think they're worlds apart? Would you say, or
is it the same?
Depends. I think depends what the song is. Yeah, I think there is. So as my sort of experience as a songwriter and trying to become a songwriter was, you just write all these songs, and each song there could be just one line that you look back on, or there's something about that song that you think, yeah, that's good, that's progress. It's all about progressing, and then you sort of hit a like a purple patch, and you're like, whoa, where did this come from? I had these sort of marker songs where I feel that was a significant song in my history, Yeah. And those sort of songs I think still stand up. There's lots that are absolutely appalling, but you just hit a benchmark, and you wonder where that came from. And then looking back, you realise it's because I wrote 50 songs to get one good song, and then I wrote another 50 songs and got another, and it was a very frustrating experience, because you'd hit that, you'd hit the benchmark, and you think, right, that's it. All my songs are going to be good now, and they're just not. You just can't. You can't. I can't anyway. Just produce the whole time. It's it is incredible. I find it frustrating being a songwriter. I don't know. Do you find that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
painful.
One good song and generally 5, 6 just rubbish that I'm not going to do anything with, which I find really frustrating, because each song, I don't know about you, but you pour so much into each song, and when it just ends up not working, it's horrendous.
There's so much hope and excitement, and also for some reason, if you've written a good song, you finished a good song, you really feel validated. I really feel validated.
Absolutely.
And that's the weirdest thing, because I can feel great about myself because I've written a song that perhaps no one will ever hear. But to me, that's like, the song is it's the process and getting something out at the end where there's some sort of hope that you can move forward with it. So if you spend a couple of days and you've got not a great song at the end of it, it's quite demoralizing.
Have you had songs that, like you say, benchmark songs, or songs that you just think, this is brilliant, I love it, and then it goes out and nobody responds, and been really upset by it, or do you not care? Or
No,
has it never
I
happened?
don't. No, because I think if you've got a really good song that you really like, that to me, that's the sort of that's the point of it. So if no one else likes it, I mean, I guess it's frustrating from a. I don't know. No, I don't. I just don't really. It was like, if I think it's good, then it's good, and something, something could come. There's always hope that something could happen with it. You just don't know. But I've definitely had songs where I've known that they're not right, and they've gone out and been released, and nothing's happened, and I felt annoyed about that because I felt like I let myself down by going in that direction or doing, listening to that piece of advice. That's just that's really annoying.
Yeah, and the thing with it, I guess, is that you're not a machine. Like, you can't go into being like, okay, I'll write 50 rubbish songs and then I'll get one song. Like, you have to go into every song thinking it's going to be
this is the one.
And that's why it's probably such a downer at the end, because you have gone into it thinking this could be amazing.
The other thing is, and this happens quite a lot with me. If I say I'm going to, I'm going to write a song. Sometimes you're just walking down the street and an idea will pop into your head and you put it onto your phone or whatever. But other times I just sit down and I know that if I sit there for 2 or 3 hours, something will come, and the hope that there's something good will come. And it's when you've been sat there for 2 or 3 hours, and that's only the start. That's only to get a sort of germ of an idea, and then suddenly it's sort of, your brain it all clicks in your brain and it all comes out, and that's really exciting. Other times you'll get the little idea, and you'll toil away, and it still ends up not as good as you thought it would do. And then that's when it's really, because I know that I have to go through an amount of time churning through these ideas, and a lot of times that good things come right at the end when you're just about to give up. You think, well, I'm going to go and have a cup of tea, and then suddenly a spark, and you have to you follow that. But it's a very strange occupation.
Do you find it hard to juggle your time? Because if you're doing the producing and then the songwriting, but the songwriting creativity can take forever.
Well, I find it harder sometimes to get even into the mindset of writing a song, because I know it's a difficult process. So I will, avoid it. Yeah. So unless I'm doing like a co-write, like if you came over, then that's fine, because that's what we're there to do. But if I write for myself, it's definitely it's like when you after you've recorded a few albums, I don't find them easy things to do. They're really difficult. You have to get really absorbed, and it has to sort of take over your life. And it is. I mean, painful is probably the wrong word, but it is a very frustrating experience, because you're constantly trying new ideas, songwriting or production, and most of them are crap. Most of the ideas are really bad, and it's quite demoralizing, and you're like, do I want to go through that again? Do I have to go through all that again? So sometimes having the other stuff to do is quite nice, because you can you don't suffer the same.
Yeah, you don't suffer for your art.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of suffering, I think I'd like to hear something that was a bit painful and not in a good way.
Yeah, your best or your worst, or a bit bad,
or just like good but not that good.
What? Sorry?
Or just good but not that good. It doesn't have to be awful.
Well, there was one called Heartburn that is really quite cheesy and quite American sounding.
Okay.
Right at the beginning, But it was one of those sort of songs that got me in. Record companies were interested and put me in the studio and that. And I don't think it's. I don't know. I still like it, but it's a bit cheesy. But
I'm intrigued.
I'm so intrigued.
It's very old as well. But I'll give that one a go.
Here we go.
As my heart burns for you, it's crazy the things I try to prove. So tears flow dry. I'm running around with no sense of pride, and I know I'm never gonna see you again. And the way I'm feeling now, I'm better off dead. I know I'm only happy when I'm falling apart, but it doesn't help matters. This is breaking my heart. I'm okay, I may be alone, but I've been through this before. Life is cruel and it just ain't cool, but this I must ignore. If I could run, I would hide away, but I am stuck for sure. My chance is gone, it was yesterday. I can't love you anymore, can't love you anymore, no more.
Yes, Heartburn.
I loved it.
I enjoyed Heartburn.
Yeah, it was great.
But I know what you mean. Like, you can tell that maybe it was more like heart on your sleeve than you would be now. More kind of I don't know, more like, I'm trying to think of the phrase, like you're showing your emotions a lot more obviously than, and maybe now.
Yeah, I agree.
You know
They
what I mean?
weren't not as sophisticated as you think I'd like to be now, but it was.
Maybe that's
I
the
really
one.
believed it at the time. It was about
I'm sure.
heartbreak, and it was. And I felt it. I felt the sentiment of it, and it's funny, It's interesting.
Do you feel now because obviously you're saying like you did feel it, even now you look back and you think, oh, what was I doing or whatever, but do you think now when you're writing a song, do you try and like not make it as obvious, your feelings, or do you still try and present your feelings as clearly as you did back then?
Well, I think a lot of it now is trying to work out what my feelings are.
Right.
It's interesting because you can write stuff, and you don't really know. You can't. You can't articulate your feelings. Sometimes I can't articulate my feelings. I can't say I'm going to write a song about this thing that happened in my life or that. I can't do that. But my feelings come out through the songs subconsciously.
Ah.
So I don't have anything to say, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm going to write a song about that. I don't write lyrics on their own. I write them. A line will come with the tune, and it even if it gets changed later on, it's still the heart of the song is normally in those first couple of lines, and you unravel everything else from there. It's not a conscious act or conscious process, and you put the meaning to it afterwards, really.
And have you found that being in lockdown and being in this situation, has it made your creativity any worse or any better?
I've not wanted to write at all in any way, shape or form. I've not had any, I don't know, I think it's because what's happening around the world, suddenly lots of things feel a bit insignificant, and because a lot of songwriting is self-indulgent anyway, and for me, I can just see that there's loads of other stuff going on, and also because I don't know what's going on, and it's an anxious time. I just don't feel like crafting a song in the midst of all this. I don't know. It's strange, but I have been doing things. I have been sort of mixing and producing during lockdown. So I'm still creative, but there's nothing directly personal that's come out.
And in terms of coming out of lockdown, hopefully, fingers crossed, what do you kind of want to get into more of as the in the next few months / year? More writing or releasing or producing?
Well, yeah. So I want to finish the dive. I am finishing the Diving at Dawn album because luckily I've done a lot of recording, and all the writing is just mixing and putting things, overdubbing. So that's fine. So I'm doing that. And then I think after, I mean, who knows when lockdown's gonna finish?
That's true.
I think it would just be pretty much a continuation of what I'm doing now. Weirdly, I sort of work a lot from home, so it's not certain aspects. I've been quite set up for lockdown, but yeah, it's I don't know what happens in the future. I think no one does, do they? That's the thing.
No.
Yeah, I find it's so weird that to be going through something that everybody else is going through. I found that really odd. Yeah. And like even sort of celebrities that I really like are stuck in their houses. But I've been the same. I've not wanted to write anything at all. I can kind of do things like take pictures, and I've been able to do video editing, but I've not been able to actually write anything down or read anything either. I found that really difficult.
Really?
Yeah, my mind just wanders.
So, what, like even just something that's comforting?
Yeah, like just reading any books or anything like that. Like even like, because I like quite, chick lit sort of stuff. And even reading that, I just can't focus on it.
Yeah.
Are you reading through this time?
Sorry?
Are you reading anything?
Well, my sort of go-to, like you're saying, chick lit for you is like, it's like a sort of comfort.
Yeah.
It's just band biographies and things about music, producers, stories, anything like that. That's what I will read, just to take me away from everything. So I've read a really good book about a producer called Ted Templeman, which is really exciting. He produced Van Halen, the Doobie Brothers, Aerosmith. So he was a real sort of 70s, 80s Van Morrison. And I'm reading Fleetwood Mac story, the Mick Fleetwood biography, which is really good. I've got the Prince one, the one that he started, which I haven't started yet, but that's my next one. But yeah, so all that sort of stuff, I just really, that just takes me away from, everything else. Because I just find myself looking at Twitter and worrying.
Impossible to get away from it.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's just dangerous. More so than Instagram for me.
Yeah.
Instagram, I don't seem to have a reaction to the images, but the Twitter and the anger and hostility on Twitter, I just think, wow, very full on, but it's very full on time. So that's what.
Usually, I have football to kind of get me over it. Just look at goal.com, but you even look at that, and they're all talking about it. So, there's nothing.
That's the thing that I didn't realise how much I watched football until it was gone.
It's so
it
true.
Was so, I spent so much time watching football. I don't just watch, the team I support. I watch any game really. And so last night was great. Football came back.
Yeah.
Wasn't so great.
Not so great, no.
Tough game. But football is the other thing that I can just switch off. I can sort of just watch.
Exactly.
And fine. Because, I don't want to be taxed. My brain taxed.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
I don't want to be taxed either.
Any more than going out to the shops, which is like the most stressful thing.
Yeah, it is really stressful.
It's weird, isn't it? All the usual things that you did suddenly have got a new dimension and new. You just feel much more vulnerable in these ridiculous situations, everyday situations.
And I feel really sorry for business owners because around here there's been a couple of shops that have opened, but you just don't feel like you want to go in. And one, because of like you don't want to get the virus, and two, because it's just not. It just doesn't feel inviting. Like just being the only person in there as well. Like you don't really. I don't really want that experience.
Very self-conscious.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think people are going to find it really difficult.
In smaller towns, I think. In London, I think maybe it might be easier. I mean, are people around on the streets in London?
Yeah, seem to be. Not in Central. I mean, I haven't been there, but I was talking to my manager yesterday, and he said, he went to the where did he go? Covent Garden. He said it's really quiet, just so quiet. But in the the little areas. There's people are about,
yeah.
Because people are in the parks, and so.
Do you miss gigging at all?
Not really.
Why not?
Because gigs are just. I always find them. There's a lot of admin involved in gigging. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of your life up, and I've done a lot of that, and so I don't miss that, and I think that's just because I've been doing it for a long time, and it's not difficult for me to give that up.
If someone said to you that you are never allowed to do another gig again, how would you feel?
I would be upset. Yeah. I'd be upset, and I can see how younger artists, how gigging is so important. It used to be the most important thing because that was how you got a reaction for what you were doing, and you got an immediate reaction. For me, it used to be the most, and everything was geared to the next gig, and it was so exciting, and it was just everything, absolutely 100% everything. But now I just don't. But I think I just. Pretty long in the tooth for that, but I feel sorry for people. I mean, some people I'm working with who had gigs booked for the rest, till Christmas, and that's all gone. And I just think that's just awful.
Do you think it's?
And I hope that.
Sorry. Do you think it's harder to get people to go to gigs now?
I don't think it will be when. If the situation continues to improve, I think people will, want to go to gigs. Definitely. Absolutely.
But even pre-lockdown, did you find it was... Even pre-lockdown, did you find it was more difficult? Did you think it was the same as it has always been?
What? Sorry?
Getting people to gigs.
As an artist, getting people to turn up, I think it's always been difficult. It's always been, there was, so with the Body Slightly Too, we seemed to, when we did our first gig, it was, for some reason, I don't know why, we always had loads of people turn up, and they weren't our friends, it was just, we just had some sort of buzz going around, and that went on for a good few years, and then, you gradually become less sort of flavour of the month, And then you realise, yeah, it's actually it is just really hard to get people to turn up. And so when people do turn up, it's a great thing. It's difficult, isn't it? Sometimes people are busy.
Yeah, it's awful.
Especially if you're not a massive, if you're not a really big band with a huge following, it's I don't know. I always really appreciate it when we do gigs and there's people there. That sounds ridiculous, but
I find it like having a house party. Like putting it on is really stressful because you're just waiting for everyone to come and hoping that everyone comes, and then everyone comes and they all seem to be having a good time, but you're the only person who's not because you're just stressed out about things breaking or it not going well. That's how it feels for me. It's just like it kind of takes a bit of the fun out of it when you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, but then when you'll get to a point where you start to do gigs that are put on by promoters and you'll do some bigger support slots and there's people there.
Different story.
That's when it gets really exciting because that's when you're in front of a big crowd of people and you can really, if you get a reaction, it's amazing. It's awful if you don't get a reaction because you're, that's you're being judged properly. That's a whole different level when you get that. And then you get ones where you start to sell out shows on your own, and that's a completely bonkers concept. And
What's the worst? What's the worst audience? Actually, I won't say worst. What's the best audience reaction you ever had, or the best gig you've ever played?
I don't know. There's been loads of good reactions, but one that sticks in my mind. We supported Body Slightly 2 supported James Blunt on his UK tour in about 2005 or 2006, and the first show was at the Glasgow Barrowlands, and that's it's quite an intimidating crowd. It's quite a big crowd, and then they're not gonna suffer fools gladly. I guess it was 2,000, 3,000 people. And that was our first time in front of a crowd that big. And I was genuinely terrified. And we went out and we got a really good, really strong reaction, and it was unbelievable because no one knew us. It was they didn't have to react like they did, and it was just amazing. And to have sort of that many people shouting for you is pretty incredible.
Amazing. So should we finish off with who we should be listening to right now? Have you got any tips for us?
A new artist or old artist?
Whatever.
Anyone
that springs to mind. You can give us a couple if you want.
Well, you should definitely be listening to a chap called George Pelham.
I like
He's
that.
very good. I'm working with a girl called Freya Beer. She's really good. She's absolutely brilliant. She's had a couple of singles out. Who else as in new? I've been listening to Prince. I guess people know about Prince. But he's released.
You'd be surprised.
There's an album. Yeah, there's an album called Originals, which is his original recordings of songs that were covered that he wrote.
Oh, cool.
So there's Nothing Compares to You. There's his original sort of recording of that or demo.
Yeah.
Manic Monday.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just really interesting hearing his original versions of these sort of famous songs. What else? And then I've just been really getting into rock music, old school.
Classic rock.
Really enjoying Queens of the Stone Age. They're not really classic rock, but just going back, and that would be to do a proper rock album, a guitar album. That's what I think I need to do. That's at some point. I've got to address that, because I can't get away from that sort of excitement and energy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my go-to at the moment.
Amazing.
Not very cool. Not very cool, but
Hey, I mean, to some people,
I think it's cool.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I know what you mean by the energy and excitement, because you do, in that genre particularly, you get more than, especially a lot of music now. You know, you don't feel the energy that we always talk about that you do in that kind of rock music.
No.
So I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, things are quite stripped back and.
Yeah, things are more minimal.
Yeah, and also I sort of really do hanker for the sort of a band scenario, because I think that's just a nostalgia type thing. But just to be in a room making music instead of sat in this sort of room making music, it's a totally different experience. I think that's, I don't know, maybe that's because always, when I think back to how I was then, I always wanted to be in this situation. I always wanted to be in, behind the glass, as they call it, in the control room. So maybe I'll just never be satisfied.
Well, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's been
Thank you both.
Been great.
Thank you both for having me. What a brilliant thing to do.
And I'll see you when this is over.
Bye. That was Pete.
I love Pete. Do you love Pete?
Yeah, I love Pete. He's super interesting. Great songwriter.
Oh yeah.
And I got to see inside his studio, which was exciting because I've not seen where the magic happens.
Yeah, I think he has like 2 studios in his house though. Or maybe, I think he used to have one and he put it upstairs, but he still kind of has it. So it's a musical household.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Every time someone plays their songs that they don't like, I always love it.
It's really weird, because maybe it's a side of them that they don't like, but it doesn't mean that that other people don't like it. And I also feel like with his songs, they're just so emotional. I just find, especially listening to the first one, you just feel like you can hear his whole life, it's his whole heart in the song, and it's quite a special thing, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like there's nothing surface about it. It is depths of Pete Hobbs, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I'm really into lyrics when I hear songs, that they're very important to me, whereas my dad says that he doesn't hear lyrics, he just hears like the sound of
the sound of that.
Yeah, the sound of the sound of the words rather than the actual lyrics. And I feel like with Pete's lyrics, you can keep listening to them and then you'll keep hearing like little bits as you get to know the song, and it gets more and more interesting. There's so many, they're very layered.
Yeah, witty as well, like quite sharp lyrics are always fine. And it's quite a lazy comparison, but I always feel like a Badly Drawn Boy. It feels like that, you know what I mean? It's a similar kind of vibe. I always think with his songs, I used to love Badly Drawn Boy when I was younger. I listened to it all the time, so it kind of reminds me of that.
The same kind of era, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I think he said he knew the guy, or
he knows everyone
he
every
knows
time we
everyone.
mention him, but he's really modest about knowing everyone.
The amount of stories that guy has.
Thank you so much for watching.
And check out his music, Diving at Dawn. He's just put it out, just started releasing it last year, and it is really, really amazing.
Yeah, the what's the word? The production? Is it the production or the way that the way that the music's written? What's
the arrangement?
The arrangement. The arrangements of his songs are just incredible. I don't know how he does it, but they're so full.
Yeah, very orchestral.
And beautiful as well, like really, really beautiful. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, beautifully made pieces of music. You can tell he's not just whacked it out in an afternoon. There's a lot of thought that's gone into his songs, and you can tell.
Yeah. So, well, we'll see you again next time. Thanks so much.
Ta-ra.
Bye.